We will now take up the topic of ritual and gender relations. We want to explore the many complex ways in which ritual communicates cultural ideas about femininity, masculinity, and relationships between men and women. We have already seen that rituals can communicate important social lessons, and we have considered that because much of the learning in ritual occurs through embodiment and the manipulation of symbols, participants may be less aware of the fact that they are being trained in certain perspectives and behaviors than if they were being told so directly through moral exhortations. Let's see how these ritual processes might play out specifically in the domain of gender relations. We want to think about both gender roles and also gender relations. Gender roles is a term that refers to behaviors that are typically expected of males and females, or a third gender, in society. Gender roles include the work tasks that are typically assigned to men and women, but gender roles also include many, many more things in addition, including, for example, patterns of speech, posture, gesture, dress, emotional expression, and expectations about leadership, domination, chivalry, loyalty, submission, or subservience. Gender relations, however, is a term that encompasses gender roles, but beyond that refers to the relationships between women and men that are common in a society. Those relationships may be a direct consequence of prevailing gender roles or a reaction to them. Gender relations is also a useful term because it points to the fact that gender identities and roles of male, female, or a third gender are relational, that they stand in relationship to one another. That is, femininity is often defined in relationship to or in contrast to masculinity, and vice versa. That what is masculine is not feminine, for example. So in this unit, I'd like you to keep in mind those three different elements of gender relations. 1, the common expectations that a society holds about femininity and masculinity, gender roles. 2, how those roles are defined in relationship to one another, the relationality of gender roles. And 3, the accumulated feelings that may have developed about those relations, i.e., how easy those relationships are, or whether they create antagonisms that must be resolved. Okay, now to tie in ritual. We can imagine that different rituals might have different types of relationships to gender in a society. For example, a ritual might represent idealized gender roles and help train young people into the kind of gender roles and relations that will be expected of them as adults. Or a ritual might be a place apart, in which people are given license to play with gender roles that are normally forbidden to them in everyday life, a sort of role reversal. A third possibility is that a ritual might involve men and women, girls and boys, performing acts of aggression against one another, possibly serving as a release valve for tensions that are built up through everyday relations, and then ultimately keeping the peace between men and women. To explore the topic of ritual and gender relations, we will go to Brazil and Morocco. First, you will watch the film The Mehinaku, also spelled Mehinaku with a K. The Mehinaku are an indigenous group who live in the Xingu National Park in the Amazonian rainforest in Brazil. This film documents rituals of the piqui fruit harvest. The narrator gives us background information about Mehinaku cultural life and then analyzes the gendered aspects of several piqui harvest rituals. Later on, we will turn our attention to Morocco in northern Africa. You will read Elaine Combs-Schilling's article, Etching Patriarchal Rule, Ritual Dye, Erotic Potency, and the Moroccan Monarchy, which is about Moroccan weddings. The groom and the bride in Moroccan weddings are separated for most, even all, of the wedding ceremony, each involved in separate ritual activities. One of the activities that the brides participate in involves the application of intricate designs in henna dye to their hands, arms, and feet. As you are watching the film and then reading the article, ask yourself which of the following statements best characterizes the rituals depicted or described. A. The rituals help train young people into the kinds of roles that will be expected of them as adult women and men. B. The rituals allow women and men to momentarily break out of their everyday gender roles and be playful. C. The rituals allow men and women to playfully act out some hostility, serving as a release valve for tensions that are built up through everyday relations, ultimately keeping the peace between men and women. For both the Mehinaku and the Moroccan cases, several rituals are depicted or described, so try to discern which statement best characterizes the majority of the rituals in each culture. The same statement might not be true for both the Mehinaku and the Moroccan rituals, so compare and contrast carefully. I look forward to reading your ideas in the discussion.